Welcome, everybody, to the World Resource Forum session on measuring and advancing circularity. We will have 4 or 5 distinguished speakers today, and we will start with Dr. Joanna Wallace from Think Eco Design. So please, you can share your presentation. And yes, it's moving. You need to unmute your microphone. Yes.
And there we go. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. I hope you can all hear me well. So my name is Joanna Wallace. I'm a green economy specialist from South Africa, and today I'm going to be talking about advancing the circular economy using use-it waste beneficiation model. The focus of today is to really talk about the different governance structures that have helped to enable this really beneficial partnership. So what we're going to be looking at is how this model has delivered measurable impacts and how the model can be adapted for other global south contexts and realities. Okay. So South Africa generates large volumes of waste, but only about 65% of the municipal solid waste of the waste we generate, 65% of this municipal solid waste ends up in landfills, with only 34% of it being recycled. Of the 34% recycled, 80% of the recyclables are collected by the informal waste reclaimers or waste pickers. This is often done in unsafe and difficult conditions. The challenges of rapid urbanization, limited municipal resources, and high unemployment compound this waste management challenge. This challenge requires solutions that are tailored for developing and emerging economies, and also integrate local realities in a sustainable and equitable way. Essentially, what we're saying is if the informal sector and township contexts are not adequately integrated, we really miss the heart of the solution. So the user model is particularly powerful because what it is the basis of it is formed with a good, strong partnership between eThekwini Metro Municipality, which developed an industrial cluster. And essentially this industrial cluster is a coming together of different entities from academia, research, and other organizations that facilitates the growth of specific industrial sectors. In this context, it's about channeling funding into local enterprises and waste reclaimer support. So use-it is made of 3 pillars, the first being SME incubation. Under the SME incubation, waste beneficiation, small businesses receive rent-free sites, business support, access to licensing, and networking. And these are really, really crucial components of a growing business. Then we have the informal sector integration that happens. So this happens in the form of reliable stipends, training in terms of proper PPE, waste handling, and then also it provides a working space with more safety built in and dignity for the waste reclaimers themselves. Then the third component of this model is how it creates partnerships and innovation opportunities where different entities can leverage the synergies between them for amplified growth. So this comes in the form of linking SMEs to donors, providing researchers with on-the-ground data and information offsite, straight out of the environment, and then linking this all with different private sector funding mechanisms. So what's important to note here is although the use-it model itself is very scalable, one of the core parts of it is finding the correct sustainable funding mechanism, usually in a development grant or from extended producer responsibility to fund the waste reclaimer integration. So what use-it basically does is play a really crucial role in being able to secure funding and distribute it to the different waste reclaimers, and then leveraging the PowerPoints of the different entities involved in this. So use-it bridges the governance, the finance, and the grassroots actions that enables this waste beneficiation model to thrive and to be scaled elsewhere. So here we have just a little bit of a snapshot of what the impact is of Use It from 2021 to 2024. So in terms of what the quantitative impact has been, they've been diverting over 3,000 tons of municipal solid waste from landfill annually. There's been a 5,400 carbon emissions saving. Now, in the financial value of this is roughly 53,000 US dollars, or about 930,000 rand. Through the program, they've supported 165 waste reclaimers and incubated more than 15 SMEs. Now, through this incubation, there's been about 70 jobs that have been created. And then training is also a huge part of it. So just in 2024 alone, 404 people were trained through the Use It model. So the return on investment to eThekwini municipality for all of the development and all the funding that they've provided is sitting at about a 131% ROI. So those are some really impressive metrics. So what this does is it demonstrates that the circular model is not just environmentally sound. It makes good green jobs, enables social upliftment, and makes a lot of economic sense. Okay, now let's have a look at some of the incubatees and the waste reclaimers. So essentially what we've done is just captured a couple of the stories of change here from the Use It model. So first on the left, we have Bugology. Now, Bugology is an SME that creates compost. And what they do is they use black soldier fly larvae to process organic waste into compost and animal feed. Now, they're able to do this because of Use It's waste license on the premises. Without the support, the waste license would have been too expensive and it's quite administratively difficult to get hold of. But working under the Use It umbrella and on the Use It premises, they've been able to really leverage the waste license that's currently on place in the site. And then over in the middle, we have a community-based cooperative called Outer Waste Recycling. And what they've done is they've expanded under the Use It site incubation. So they've been able to create 15 permanent jobs. And it's created a proof of concept that community recycling hubs can thrive when they're given the space to operate in and the necessary mentorship when it comes to business acumen and support to funding opportunities. Then on the far right, then we have Keybricks. So Keybricks is an SME that converts glass and rubble into certified eco bricks for construction. So with this diversion of glass waste, they have the potential to divert roughly 130 tons of waste from the landfill every month. And not only that, they contribute to really affordable housing. So through these different little SME incubation stories of change, there's also a lot of waste reclaimer upliftment that comes with it. A particular story of change that is impactful is about how one of the waste reclaimers we interviewed talked about how without these stipends that were available to them, they wouldn't have been able to pay lobola. So in South Africa, lobola is a traditional bride price that gets paid from the gentleman that would like to marry a lady to the lady's family. So this enables people to live lives with dignity and to be able to do the things they want to do. So these are tangible examples about the upliftments that's social, economic, and environmental. These stories are not just isolated stories. They all come together because of the Use It model itself. So the cluster it creates is really enabling. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the global relevance and scalability. So why does this matter on a global scale? It matters because it's directly linked with the WRF's drivers for change. We have circular economy imperative, which diverts waste into products and enhances the waste management and recycling value chain. Then we have the governance element of it, which is a municipality NPO partnership that is something that is replicable in other municipalities too. It's a governance mechanism that's really, really necessary when it comes to waste licensing and things like that too. Then we have this as an enabler of innovation. So we have the different products that come from it, like the key bricks. And then we also have a waste monitoring app that's been used to help manage waste volumes, to help track and trace waste volumes, that have been not only good for reporting metrics, but also that are really, really helpful when it comes to the stipends functioning with waste reclaimers. So essentially what we have here is a plug and play model that can be adapted for other emerging and developing economies, especially across Africa. The issue of, overburdened landfills, unemployment, and rampant waste and pollution in the environment is not just in South Africa, it's elsewhere. And the way that this model fits in with the different SDGs and things like this makes it a really good impact story for international funders and development agencies, because it checks a lot of boxes when it comes to funding and impact that we want in in projects in the global platform. Okay, so it's this project is really shows how waste can turn into equitable, resilient, and circular economies. And what is so cool about it is that it is rooted in local realities in South Africa. So what we would love to do is invite global partners to explore how this model can be adapted to your context. With the right mix of SME incubation, informal sector integration, and municipal partnership, it's a model that can be replicated and scaled really easy and deliver some really meaningful, impactful results. Thank you so much for your time, everyone, and please do ask me a question if you'd like to.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joanna, for your interesting study and for the good case studies. There are no questions in the chat, but I have a question. You mentioned that the research are stakeholders. So maybe can you tell a bit what kind of role they play and how many research institutions are involved? And during this time, Betsy Bowen, you can share your presentation. You would be next. Yeah, Joanna.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so there's multiple organizations that have been key role players in this. So we've been working with a South African agency called the CSIR, who have been quite crucial in the research and development of the key bricks model. Then there's been funding that have come from international organizations that have enabled different parts of the use it model, like the IDC and stuff like that. So I'd say altogether, the institutes that have played a role in this, and there's also a part of the World Bank that there's a World Bank funded element of it. So the international and the local organizations that have been key players in terms of funding and research availability, there's been about 6 of them over the 4 years that the model has been running. And that impact of theirs has been really, really meaningful, very significant contributions.
Yeah, thanks. Good.
Sure.
Now then we come to our next presenter and the World Resource Forum. Maybe you can share the slide of Betsy Bowen. Hello. Over to you. So to Dr. Betsy Bowen from Keele University, UK. So she will tell us about emerging trends, potential challenges, and future opportunities for the transition to eco-industrial development. Evidence from an industrial park in Kenya. Over to you, Betsy.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Right. I do apologize for my video. I don't know, just something happened and I couldn't just trace my...
It's all fine. You can go in full presenter mode with your slides.
Thank you very much. Are we there?
Yes.
Right. So my name's Betsy Bowen, a research scientist, and just completed my PhD in Keele University, and currently I'm doing part-time teaching. So my presentation today is about the emerging trends, potential challenges, and future opportunities for eco-industrial park development in Kenya. So basically, I will start by explaining exactly what an industrial park is vis-a-vis an eco-industrial park. And industrial parks basically are dedicated areas for industrial use, where you've got communities of manufacturing units, businesses that have come together, and they collaborate to meet common needs. And these industries are basically located in places where they are closer to resources, closer to infrastructural corridors, and even utility services. So these industrial parks are becoming quite instrumental, because globally they have been identified as engines of economic growth. And I tend to compare conventional industrial parks to the linear system of industrial development, where industries located in a particular area, they extract resources, they manufacture it, the products goes to the market, and the resultant waste goes to landfills. However, with the current challenges in terms of climate change, resource scarcity, there is consensus that these kinds of models are no longer sustainable, and therefore there is need for us to adopt the eco-industrial parks that come in terms of circular economy promotion. So the challenge with the main problem with these industrial parks is that the conventional ones, we've got inefficiencies in terms of emissions, in terms of resource use. But then with paradigm shift, we can actually shift from these high efficient industrial parks to low efficient ones with circular economy interventions in areas of waste, energy, and in water. So in literature, if you look at eco-industrial parks globally, I focused mainly on developing countries, and most of these developing countries are seeking to replicate the Europe, East Asia, American successes in implementing EIPs. However, majority of these industrial parks, they still fall below expectations in terms of environmental and social performance, with very low compliance. However, there is notable progress in terms of policy and legal support. And you can see initiatives, green technology innovations that are currently coming up, for instance, the integration of renewable technology. And the reason why I focus basically in Kenya is because the Kenyan government is currently in the process of promoting industrial parks as part of the economic agenda to promote the Vision 2030. And if you look at most of the policies that have come up, they recommend strategic environmental impact assessments and annual environmental audits to be done for these industrial parks. However, they are very quiet about the promotion of voluntary environmental sustainability measures. So since industrial development is at a very early stage and these clusters are set to accelerate, if they are not supported, these enterprises will definitely make long-term investments that are guided by the current linear practices, and they might eventually end up being locked into less efficient and high efficient emission pathways. So what I sought to do, this study sought to assess the circular economy readiness for the Kenyan industrial parks, and then examine some of the existing resource efficiency and cleaner production technologies and techniques that are currently in operation. And the industrial park that I'm going to focus on is one in Nairobi called the Ruaraka Industrial Park. And then the other objective was to identify what are the barriers and what are the opportunities that can be used to support these industries, promote low emission pathways. So in terms of methodology, we used a mixed methods approach where we collected data from the companies themselves. We did interviews with production managers. We had a checklist of the things that we were focusing on, basically in terms of readiness, the strategic documents, are they Do they have sustainability plans? Do they have any policies in place in terms of promoting circular economy? We also did direct observations because we walked through the company. We could look at their waste management processes. We could look at their energy, their processes. How are they structured? What are they currently doing? And we managed to get data for their resource flows for energy, water, and materials. And we could also ask them some of the initiatives that they are currently doing that the companies feel are in a way promoting circular economy. And we also got our data, secondary data from official government documents, operational process manuals, environmental audits, and impact assessments. So in terms of the industrial park that we assessed, we managed to get data from 19 out of 26 industries in the park. And when we classified them in terms of sectors, which is very useful because sectoral classifications can help you identify and assess their innovation potentials. So we had majority of them are food and beverage companies. And in that case, you can link it to the amount of organic wastes that is being generated. We had textiles and paper, we've got chemicals and pharmaceutical companies, we've got plastics and also construction companies. So in terms of our findings, I will quickly run through them, and definitely when we publish this, we intend to submit the paper and you can read more about our findings. I'll just do the general ones. We could see that circular economy adoption in the park is still quite in its infancy stage. Most of the companies, some of them, they understand circularity in terms of things like planting trees and engaging in CSR activities. But to us, we were looking at from a company level, what are they doing? And we could see that most of the companies are still quite at an early stage of promoting circular economy. And we could see existence of some under-regulated, self-organized evolution of some of these circular economy activities within the cluster. And mostly we could notice that they are motivated by market forces and convenience. For instance, a company will tell you that someone came the other day and said, we are interested in our waste. So because the waste is occupying too much space and we are paying a lot of money to companies to come and dispose it, we decided to give them our waste. So they are quite under-regulated, though they are self-organized, and you can see there are really good cases and good stories of change, of which if we can build on them and then put them in a very structured way, they can be quite interesting stories, and they can be a very good examples of circular economy initiatives in the park. The other thing we observed is that there's a very weak measurement culture. Companies don't really do, they don't keep good data about maybe their resources, their wastes, and their byproducts. I am always fascinated by this saying by somebody called Peter Drucker, who said, what is not measured cannot be managed. If you don't have good records of what you produce and what you generate, then it will be very difficult for you to manage it and even also improve it. So that's an area that we feel like these companies, they need to really improve on their production records management. There is no evidence of established partnerships. There is a lot of weak coordination. Like industries, they don't talk to each other. One industry doesn't even understand what the other industry is doing, despite being located in the same park. So these industries, apart from the fact that they're located in one area, they collaborate in other things. For instance, when they want to lobby for road networks to be developed in their area, there are very good collaborations in those areas. But then when it comes to issues of resource management, managing their wastes, they're still really, really behind. There is also lack of trust among the businesses. They don't trust each other, because you can find a company that is generating some waste and another company that can basically use that waste at their input, but then they don't talk to each other. They don't even know that they exist in the park. And the other thing also is from a local authority perspective. These are the local authorities basically can support in this area by being innovation agents. But then because of lack of trust, they are being viewed as just command and control agents. So this is an area that we feel like we need to work together with the local authorities to support these industries to promote a circular economy. And then the other thing is weak infrastructure. I can even say non-existing, because facilities for recovery and waste management are literally non-existing. Interesting innovations that we found is the one I've put across. We've got a company that is generating quite an amount of fabric offcuts, a textile company. And then within the same yard, there are a group of 4 women that are basically using these fabric offcuts to come up with a patched up shopping bag. I found this quite interesting because in Kenya currently, the government introduced the ban for single-use plastic bags, and such initiatives spinning up from such companies, because definitely these wastes could have ended up in a dump site somewhere. But because of this interesting innovation, and you can see it has generated employment for up to four people, is quite an interesting innovation that can be scaled up, they can be supported, and it's one way of promoting circular economy in the area. In terms of the challenges that we identified, we've got regulatory, policy and regulatory barriers. There is too much uncertainties and political will, because if we can have the government and the local authorities supporting these industries, they can still come up with innovative ways of managing these wastes. And then there is over-dependence on imported resources. So you find companies, as I mentioned earlier, that despite some of these companies having wastes that can be used by other companies, they still import them from somewhere else. So if we can find a way of getting these industries talk to each other, then some of the resources that are generated within this park can be utilized internally. And then we can reduce the overburdening of our landfills. In terms of technical challenges, there is lack of physical and social infrastructure. The master plans for these industrial parks, they were not designed with the ideals of sustainability in mind. So for the government, for instance, we still have to green our policies. We need to review the policies and ensure that they are promoting circular economy within it. And then there is issues of underdeveloped collection, sorting and recycling infrastructure. And then there is low maturity of scalable, high quality recycling technologies. In terms of institutional, mentioned earlier, very inadequate measurement culture, there is still limited awareness and lack of trust. And we could even see very poor operating procedures, very simple things like taps that are still running. And that is basically water that is being wasted. So in terms of operating procedures, in terms of things like behavior change, if they can, train their employees and support them, then we can reduce some of these resource wastes within the companies. In terms of cross-cutting issues, we looked at it in terms of limited funding for low carbon and socially inclusive technologies. For instance, you could find some interesting innovations that can be supported, but then because there is no funds, companies are focused on their profits, and they will literally tell you that circular economy is not their core mandate. For them, it's just profitability. So if we can have a way of supporting these industries in terms of seed funding to support some of these initiatives, it can generate jobs. I was quite impressed by the presenter who came before me, who was presenting stories of change in South Africa. And I think that's something that really we need to talk and exchange ideas and see how can such initiatives be supported in developing countries like Kenya. And then in terms of future prospects, I've already talked about some of these things in terms of greening our policies. We need to start from the policy point of view.
Speed up a bit, yeah.
Yeah, and then technical assistance, and then skilling, supporting, creating awareness, and then forging better linkages with local suppliers to ensure that some of these resources, we can use them locally. And then in terms of public-private partnerships, we need to support some of these initiatives in terms of seed funding, and then we can leverage on Kenya's growing innovation system. And I think that's all for now. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah,
Back
thank
to
you very
you,
much,
Roland.
Betsy, for this interesting study and for your PhD. Good luck with the publication. Maybe one observation I have, there is no question in the chat, is that it seems that there would need to be a facilitator, looking and helping companies about their waste and what kind of waste could be needed. So are you thinking on this facilitation, or is there some facilitation?
Yes, we found a business association on site that call themselves Ruaraka Business Community. And in terms of facilitation, their focus was mainly some of the challenges that these companies are facing. For instance, if there's water shortage, they link the companies with the local authorities. So their facilitation is basically on normal day-to-day challenges. So this is an area that we realize if they can be empowered and supported, then they can really push for some of these transitions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Please stop sharing. Then we can come to our next presenter. That's Professor Vladimir Mota from the Federal Center for Technology Education, CEFET, from Brazil. And he will inform us about circular economy from a sufficiency perspective. So over to you, Professor Mota. You can share your screen and start your presentation.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here to contribute to the debate about on circular economy and sufficiency. It's a theme that challenges us to rethink both production and consumption patterns. In this really brief presentation, I will introduce this research team, and the intention is not to present final results, but to encourage the reflection and dialogues around its potential. Here in the first slide, I'm trying to show that we have really a urgency of this transition, and considering the circular economy and sufficiency perspectives, I'm focused on the sufficiency because I understand that circular economy is well known, and the sufficiency is not so much. So sufficiency complements circular economy by emphasizing moderated consumption, fulfillment of essential human needs, and fair resource distribution. Unlike the circular economy that has a technological focus, substantially challenges the growth paradigms and foster resource-light practices. Together, integrating circular economy and sufficiency creates an holistic pathway, tackling not only environmental symptoms, but also their root cause. That's the possibility. It's bibliographically, the results are focusing on the bibliographic, like the systematic literature review and the bibliometric analysis. when doing this research, we can show that we have explicit connection that it remains scarce when you use the database. Considering the research landscape on sufficiency and circular economy, we have the publication trends. Total documents analyzed was 123. We have increase in publication after 2020, and research interest is growing in recent years. The top institutions that are researching these topics are Aalto University, Lund University, Lund University, and others. The research is concentrated more in Europe, and in this research, we use only articles, and the domain subject areas were environmental science, energy, and social science. And we have some additional contributions from economics, business, agriculture, computer science, and more. Considering the link between the two teams, here in sufficiency, we have focused on distributive justice, ensuring everyone has enough to live with dignity. And we have another classification that equals sufficiency, a conscious ecological lifestyle aimed at well-being with minimal material consumption. Going to the circular economy, as I said, it's a well-known concept, but it's a model that minimizes waste and maximizes reuse, repair, recycle, and regeneration, promotes closed-loop system for sustainable production and consumption. We have some prospects on considering sufficiency, and I bring here the IPCC from 2022 that shows that sufficiency policies reduce excessive demand for energy, materials, lands, and water, while ensuring human well-being within the planetary boundaries. A current gap that we have in this research is that sufficiency is underexplored in economic models, especially with circular economy frameworks. And the article proposition is that eco-sufficiency enhances circular economy by promoting conscious consumption and social equity. And it's a pathway toward a sustainable ecological transition, integrating ethical, environmental, and economic values. When we start to rethink the circular economy through the lens of the sufficiency, you can bring here that circular economy often emphasizes technological solutions like recycling, eco-design, and all, but may overlook deeper social and cultural drivers of unsustainable consumption. In other ways, sufficiency introduces a behavioral and ethical dimension, encouraging absolute reduction in resource use and challenging the logic of continuous growth. The integration of both the teams, circular economy and sufficiency, we can bring here that moves beyond efficiency to systematic transformation, address rebound effects, and promotes longer product lifespans, align with the growth principles by prioritizing well-being over material accumulation. And can show here also the policy implications that the effective circular economy strategies must incorporate sufficiency to foster equitable, low-impact lifestyles and structural change. As a conclusion, we can see here that as key insights, sufficiency enhances circular economy by moving the focus from isolated solution to holistic value-driven transformation. The policy potential realigns circular economy practices to reduce overconsumption, promote sustainable lifestyle and product longevity, move beyond GDP-centric models towards ecological integrity and human well-being. And a call to action here is that develop ambitious policy frameworks that integrate circular economy and sufficiency, and engage multiple stakeholders to ensure coherence across environmental, social, and economic goals. As a contribution from this article, this study spans the sustainability discourse by showing how circular economy and sufficiency must work together to support a just ecological transition. As I said, it's a really brief study, but the aim here is to show this connections. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Professor Mutter. Maybe one comment from myself, for the lifestyle and sufficiency, maybe also by supporting waste management from private sector, like separating waste on private sector by choosing products which are recyclable. Yeah. So there is also one more of this link from lifestyle sufficiency in respect to circular economy. I think this could be added. And you showed that, let's say, many studies are from Europe. And now you're in Brazil, you have looked in Brazil.
Yes.
My question to you, are you developing or are you thinking to develop a network, on this sufficiency life cycle, circular economy in South America? Might this be an idea?
Yeah, I would like to. I think it's very important for us to have this, because here, for example, in Brazil, we still have a lot of problems with the waste management. As you said, for the individuals to collect and spare the waste is very difficult here nowadays. We still have a lot of problems with this, because here in Brazil we only have the right destination for the waste only for the 3% of our waste. So we have a lot of opportunities to work on.
Okay, yeah, thank you. We would come to our last presenter. That would be Dr. Mark Williams-Wynn he's CTO of eWaste Africa. So please, Dr. Williams-Wynn, you can share your presentation and inform us on your maximizing sustainability, refurbishment of renewable energy technologies.
Great. Thank you so much. Can we just confirm you can see my screen?
Yes, we can see
Perfect.
and hear.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So good afternoon, everyone. I think I wanted to present a bit on the need for processing of renewable energy technologies, not only in South Africa, where I am based, but across the world. So I work for a company called eWaste Africa. We are based in South Africa, and we have started to see a lot of renewable energy technologies coming through needing recycling. So just to give a brief understanding of the growth of renewable energy generation in the last few years, I'm not going to go through all of these numbers individually, but I think this is more just to give everyone an understanding of how renewable energy has grown over the last years, and how these new renewable energy technologies are outpacing any other sort of energy generation installations across the world. And because of that, the waste that is being produced now and will be produced in the future is something that is of quite serious concern. For example, the solar waste at the moment, we're looking around 600,000 tons of solar waste in 2022, and expecting that to go up to about 2.4 million tons of solar waste by 2030. And likewise, batteries, probably almost a tenfold increase in the amount of battery waste that will be produced, that has been produced between 2019 and 2025, and that's only going to increase more. So the question is then, well, why is this important? And I think although green technologies, your renewable energy technologies are a lot greener than many of the other types of energy generation technologies, it's still important to try and make them as green as physically possible, because there's still a lot of waste generation that is produced through the manufacturing process, whether it be gaseous gaseous emissions or effluent from the process, from the manufacturing process, whether it be the high land footprint that is associated with renewables, whether it be the debatable energy payback period, which is lots of people say different amounts, or the waste that's produced. There is still a lot of hazardous materials in many of these renewable energy products, and so it's looking at, well, how does the waste of this equipment impact the environment, pollute the land, pollute groundwater, etc. And then lastly, and I think this is probably one of the more important ones, is if we're just disposing of this equipment and not actually looking at processing it or reusing it, we're wasting a valuable resource and sending a valuable resource to landfill. And where we can rather look at creating a circular economy where the natural resources are reused. And I think many of these things are covered by the SDGs, and that's why I've included these SDGs below here, because these SDGs are very much impacted by the renewable energy technologies from cradle to grave. So then looking at how do we grow circularity in the green technology industry? One of the key things is increasing their usage or intensifying their usage to try and, as a first prize, reuse equipment that is still in workable condition, maybe in lower demand applications. And then if it's maybe not working 100% when it is returned from wherever its first life was, looking at ways to assess and test that equipment and then refurbish it wherever possible. And then where previously disposal was always seen as the last resort, we have an imperative that we look at recycling as the last resort, where if we can't reuse it, if we can't remanufacture it, then we look at recycling as the way to return those materials or return those resources to use for making new equipment. So at eWaste Africa, we've developed a process where we are first of all testing the equipment. So in particular here, I'm looking at solar and batteries. So using the kind of latest industry standard ways of testing equipment to determine, firstly, whether it can be reused straight away, or secondly, whether it can be refurbished, and lastly, if it fails both of those options, then looking at recycling as the final way to return those materials to the circular economy. And so it's looking at things like electroluminescence testing, doing IV curve testing, insulation testing for solar panels. It's looking at things like cycling and state of health for batteries, such that, well, for the individual cells within batteries, such that only the no longer functioning cells are recycled and the rest can be reused and put back onto market. So what are the advantages of reusing and refurbishing over just recycling? And I think overall there is almost an order of magnitude reduction in impact through looking at reuse and refurbishment rather than looking at recycling. But generally, the only aspects that are considered are your carbon savings and your energy savings. But we have to consider the full 9 planetary boundaries and how reuse and refurbishment reduces mankind's impact on the environment through each of these 9 planetary boundaries. And so if we think particularly of a PV module, what are some of those advantages of reuse and refurbishment? And it's things like diluting the costs. And when I say costs, I don't just talk about the economic costs, but the environmental costs and the social costs of the manufacturing and logistics process to get the solar panels from raw materials to a product and then shipping that product from wherever it is produced. In most cases, a majority of PV modules in particular are produced in Asia, and those are then shipped around the world. So there's quite substantial impact through the logistics process. And that talks directly to the carbon savings. So if you can reuse a module rather than recycle it, you get a substantial additional amount of CO2 emission reductions, because instead of breaking the module down into its constituent components, your aluminium, your glass, your silicon, etc., you're putting it back onto the market as an already made component, which then means that you avoid the additional costs of taking it from raw material to a new product. And that also is the economic costs is a big component of that, because there's a lot of, I mean, renewable energy is still too expensive for a vast majority of the world's population. But if we can maybe produce a refurbished equipment at a fraction of the price, it immediately unlocks that potential equipment to be used by someone who could not afford a brand new solar system, for example, to put onto their home so that they can have a reliable electricity supply, which is very important for many parts of the world where in some parts of the world, maybe the electricity is on for 1 hour each day. And so you can't even refrigerate food because the electricity is only on for 1 hour and it's hot the rest of the time. So a fridge can't operate like that. And then the biggest challenge, though, with reuse and refurbishment is creating that market, because unfortunately, a big part of why people buy new equipment is because there's a perception that it's so much better than old equipment or pre-owned equipment, which is not necessarily always the case. And if you look at a refurbished top of the range device, it probably is going to last you longer than a new low value or low quality product. But that it's changing that people's perception that is the major challenge behind this, looking at reuse and refurbishment and getting people to buy into that idea. Lastly, the recycling process, and here I'm just focusing on PV modules, and similarly to what Use It are doing with making their RAM bricks or their key bricks using glass, we are making interlocking pavers using the glass from recycled solar panels. And so each paver contains about 40% recycled glass. The reason why we're doing this is because in South Africa, food grade glass, so beverage bottles, etc., can be recycled, but any other type of glass, it's very difficult to find a recycling solution for. And I think it's the same reason why Use It are looking at their key bricks, because the glass, whether it be window pane glass, whether it be car windscreen glass, or whether it be glass from PV modules and lighting waste, that can't be recycled in South Africa. There's just no demand for it. You can't even pay people to take that glass from you. And so we are producing these interlocking eco pavers as a way to use that glass and give it a second life, rather than it ending up in landfill where it just fills up the landfill. So that's a brief idea behind what we are looking at as eWest Africa in terms of refurbishment and reuse of renewable energy equipment. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark, for this good presentation. And also waste hierarchy, yeah, reuse, yeah, refurbishment, recycling. We have a question.
Without disposal.
Yes, before disposal. Yes. So we have a question here from Kairi. he or she asked, do you find high recovery recycling facilities in Africa for solar panels and batteries?
So at the moment, there's very limited recycling facilities, and in South Africa, we were one of the first. I think there are 3 facilities that can recycle solar panels and batteries. But the demand is definitely at the moment is definitely higher than what can be recycled, and there is a drive for capacity building, which is mostly due to extended producer responsibility coming into effect in South Africa. However, in the rest of Africa, there's only 1 or 2 facilities across the rest of the continent where there are recycling of solar panels and batteries. This is still something that's very limited.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, actually, she also asked about Europe. There, I know that, of course, they are active for batteries, battery recycling, uh, cobalt, nickel, and so on. Yeah, that's recycled. But we have also our challenges with lithium. Um, there is a comment from Betsy. Electric motorcycles using lithium-ion batteries have hit Kenyan roads recently, but Kenya still lacks the infrastructure for battery recycling. Not sure if South Africa is facing the same challenge. And what is your take in handling this emerging e-waste problem? This means lithium batteries.
Yes, I think with lithium batteries as well, it's something that is the demand is starting to rise now, and so the recyclers are coming to the party and starting to build facilities for the recycling of the lithium-ion batteries. I think the same thing is going to happen in Kenya. I know some of my colleagues in some of the recycling companies in Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, etc., are definitely looking at installing infrastructure for battery recycling. So I think that will come because as soon as there's a demand, there will be people who will fill that demand.
Yeah, and I can add one thing here from Europe, Germany. What we see with the lithium batteries, that we have huge problems in respect to fires in waste management facilities. So we have a very strong increase in fires, major fires, and often lithium batteries are the source. We have one system which is now sorting out lithium batteries from the waste with artificial intelligence. Yeah, but this is for sure one issue we need to add to the challenge of lithium battery recycling. And in Africa, it's hot in many countries. So I think there needs to be really a system in place about handling of lithium batteries and to release the energy before you store them somewhere. So this is really playing with fire. We are missing one speaker. He was one time here, Dr. Juan Manuel, but I think Dr. Juan Manuel, the last 20 minutes, he was not there. So somehow it seems that he lost connection. But we are also, let's say, we have our 1 hour and are just in time in this respect. So World Resource Forum, you might contact to Dr. Manuel if you can put him maybe in another session if that was a connection issue. Otherwise, I wish all of you good progress with all of your research, with your work. Also, Betsy, now after your PhD, yeah, that you find a good position, and maybe you can help to facilitate in your eco industrial parks, yeah, in Kenya. Also, good luck to Professor Mutta. Since 20 years I work on sustainable lifestyle and sufficiency, but against the growth issue, it's very difficult to bring the message But finally, this is the right message, sufficiency and circular economy. So therefore, good luck for you and for South America. Also, Mark, for your work on your energy systems, yeah, that they get optimized in end of life. And Joanna, all the best and enjoy the other sessions, which are also online. Please check if something interesting is there and hope to see you maybe in 2 years' time at the World Resource Forum 2027.